posting on YouTube later. Yeah. Yeah. But if you want me to stop that recording, you just tell me if you want anything to be
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Yeah. So how have you been? How's your experience been since I last spoke to you?
Um, it's there are two sides. One side is everything is happening with neighbors, with going for a walk with them, drinking coffee, and then when nothing is going on, it it's sometimes I get a bit, yeah, still impatient or nervous, and I go to my solitaire game. uh, but with the neighbors, it's quite different now. Um, I've seen them a lot and enjoyed it. It's easy to. There was no situation where I needed to say a hard no, but I don't know what has changed, but there's no story anymore, or in rare cases, a story.
Mm. Mm.
And every day I'm going for a walk with this woman with dementia. And I really enjoyed going with her and talking about nothing, just
Mm.
feeling the contact, and she's very present
Excellent. Excellent. Yes.
and
Yes.
she's enjoying nature. And it's
Mm.
fun to go with her.
Yep. Yeah. Today I wrote a story about talking with strangers,
Mm.
and it became very obvious to me that one of the big values with talking to a stranger is that that stranger is not relating to a story about you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be anything you like and they don't know any different.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you
And
are able to let that go, to let
yes,
your image
yes,
go.
yep, yep,
uh,
yep. But I suspect that a lady with dementia might
yeah, oh,
have some
yes.
similar characteristics.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. She's not projecting you back at you.
Mm.
Mm, yeah. Can you tell me when you find the need to, correct me if I'm wrong in phrasing this, if you when you find the need to retreat into solitaire, what's going on for you? What is your attitude towards what is happening?
It's uh, there's too much from the outside, and I want to concentrate again.
Yep.
I've been meditating for 1 hour each day for months, and it was just sinking into silence. It was enjoying it, was not work. But I think last 1 or 2 weeks, I I don't feel the pull or the need to do it.
But solid,
Sometimes in the evening.
yeah.
Hmm?
But solitaire achieves the same thing for you, sinking into
No,
silence.
No, yes, it's more about bringing things into order, arranging things, putting my world together.
Yeah, yeah. But it's very definitely a slowing down, isn't it?
Yes, not on the computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I should do it with cards again. That's a slowing down, yes.
Mm. I also wrote 2 stories today that were very much about the discontinuous nature of the sense of self.
Yes.
That the sense of self isn't constant. It comes and goes depending on what's happening.
Yes.
And then I followed that up with another one about that we are that which we experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was making considerable sense, but it wasn't enough. It didn't go far enough. So I followed it up with a third one that showed that the concept of we are anything is wrong. It doesn't even fit. That there is only our current experiencing is as close as I can get with words to what is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're looking for here is an acceptance of that, recognizing that we interpret what it is, but that we respond to what it is. And if we can see that acceptance of it is to simply be with whatever that interpretation turns up, that our response to that takes us absolutely into the now, into the present. That any other response to that takes us off into an imaginary future,
Mm-hmm.
which then leads us in a constant response experience kind of spiraling off into
Mm-hmm.
whatever, yeah, out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid thing to say. Out of control makes sense. Not that any other option is in control. That doesn't make sense either. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you feel the need to go to solitaire and that has a nice effect on you, we don't want anything different to that. We just want to recognize what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
We want to recognize that we can't recognize what is happening. We want to recognize that we can only recognize what we imagine is happening. But that's okay. That's all that's required.
Yes, and trying to do that has before, when I started to play, I often played hours and deep into the night, and that has stopped. It doesn't take over completely anymore.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel a point of arrival at some place of calmness or some place of togetherness or something, whatever. Do you feel that?
Not with solitaire. It's more I I feel it's wasting time. It's not really good for my balance. But I know it has some momentum, and I'm waiting for the moment when it stops.
Mm, mm,
If I can do 1 or 2 games, it's okay. Then it's just relaxing from what I'm
yep,
when I'm programming. But then when it takes over, it isn't. It doesn't feel good anymore.
sure. Yeah, that's when you start to judge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's play with this one. You please do come back at me with anything if it comes up for you. It wouldn't matter if you were standing on your head on the other side of the room. It wouldn't matter if you were outside chopping wood. It wouldn't matter. Think of anything you like, and it wouldn't matter if you were doing that instead of solitaire.
Mm-hmm.
But solitaire has for you an effect that you find valuable,
Yes.
and until you reach that point where you start judging it, and then it reverses.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So
So
you could go washing the dishes. You could vacuum the floor. You could,
yes, that's
you
it.
know,
So many things more valuable.
all sorts of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Now, if you were a beginner at this, I would say that when you are attracted to some kind of activity like that, I would say in the beginning that you were avoiding some kind of discomfort,
Mm.
that something
I
had
can feel
been
that. Yes.
triggered
Yeah.
in you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But I don't need to tell you that because you know that. And as I say,
Mm.
it wouldn't matter what you were using, but that's not the point anymore. You're past that point. Right? The point now is to recognize that something has arisen in you that needs acceptance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a thought when I start playing. I think I should stay with this uncomfortable feeling instead of going to the game.
Uh yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, yeah, but that's again, that's a beginner's way of doing it. I think you're way past that. At this stage, it's not so much a case of confronting that. It's a case of being gentle with it, of being
Mm.
compassionate with what turns up, right? and and allowing it so that it will reveal maybe not the details of it, but the characteristic that it is something that is inappropriate, something that comes from before, something that is maladaptive in you. It's not a big
Mm.
deal. We don't want to make it into a big deal.
Mm.
It is just something there that, and you've worked out a way to placate it. Uh, but now it's you're at the point where it's worth investigating it. Now you
Mm.
could stay with it as a way of doing that, but we don't want you to stay with it using force.
Mm.
We don't want you to use control in order to do that. That's counterproductive for what we want. So what we want is for you to be relaxed and compassionate towards that discomfort and invite that discomfort to reveal
Mm.
enough about it, which may not be anything that your mind can get around, but enough to reveal enough about it that it can just simply not be there. It can dissipate
Mm.
and not be there. So,
Sometimes there is the story when I have been with people the whole day or haven't organized my time myself, but have been running around, then I need this. And then the judgment comes, a meditation would probably be better to get to my center again and that.
yeah. So you can see that what it is self-care.
Mm.
It's if you can show that discomfort compassion, it's compassion for yourself, for
Mm.
you, for Anne. And in a way, that may be all it's required.
Oh yes, that's pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
But we can't force that. We can
Mm.
just invite it very softly.
That was strong.
Mm, yeah. It's strong because it hit a spot, didn't it? Mm.
Mm. Thank you, Vince. You're
Oh,
wonderful. You're
you
just
are.
making things easy. Yeah.
I just respond to you. You are so beautiful. I love you.
I
Mm.
love you. I love you. When I heard you were feeling bad, oh, I thought, oh no, I don't want him to leave.
Mm. Yeah.
Hey Vince, how are you?
Hi, Irina. I'm good. Good to hear your
Good.
voice. Mm.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to I don't really have anything to say. I feel like kind of working through things on my own personally. But I was playing around with your chatbot and I gotta say it's really cool. It's definitely helping. Um, very clear. Um, no issues with it whatsoever, except the fact that I do run into a limit, so I have to wait to continue the conversation. I'm not ready to be paying for it, so
All right. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
um but it is kind of cool and helpful. So I think just wanted to say thanks for that.
No worries. Yeah. Yeah. Feel free to abuse it and swear at it and contradict it and whatever. The more you do that, the better value you'll get out of it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So are you finding the stories and the songs at all useful?
Uh I not so much the songs personally, but the stories, yes. The
Right.
um the written version.
Mm-hmm.
I find them useful. And actually, I was like really curious about that because, okay, who's singing the songs? And like, is this something that you come up with daily, the stories? Like, how
Yeah.
does this
Yeah.
happen?
Well, I use ChatGPT to write the stories and the investigation and the lyrics for the song, and then I
Hmm.
modify them, so that they're in line with my thinking, but they don't usually require very much modification. And then I put the lyrics of the song into another AI program called Suno, and uh, and then I play around with the instructions to that as to what voices to use and um, the genre of the songs, and I've got a fair bit of leeway that I can use. I can tell it what instruments to use, and so on with those songs. Yeah.
Wow. I'm like such a Luddite compared. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's very exciting actually. I really enjoy doing it.
I'm trying to stay far, far away from AI, and here you are just,
Oh,
using
I
it
love it.
for
Yeah.
awakening. I mean, that's really impressive. That like this is where AI should be heading, right?
Yeah, yeah, of
I
course.
think.
Yeah. Mm.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, I really don't. I mean, I have a lot to talk about, but it would just take up way too much time. And honestly, like I just woke up, so I'm
Sure.
not super clear
Yeah, all right.
and
But no
composed.
pressure, and you can have as much time as you like, so there's no time pressure either. So whatever, but, yeah, or not, that's also fine. Yeah. So be relaxed. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people, after a little while of talking, start apologizing about how much time they're using, and yet there's never a time limit. These meetings will generally go as long as it takes for everybody to talk as much as they want. So
Yeah.
sometimes in the past they've gone 3.5 or 4 hours even. Um,
Wow.
so it just depends on how many people turn up and how much talking goes on. But no, there's never a time limit. I would never cut anybody off because I want everybody to get a go. Everybody will get a go anyway. Yeah.
It just reminds me of the well, it's a recognition of mine that, all my life I was always very self-conscious about talking about stuff, about personal things to people, and I was always such a I'm not I don't think I'm talking very fast now, but I used to be such a fast talker because I felt like I had to hurry up and say what I had to say. Otherwise, I thought people would get bored or, would lose interest or whatever. And then I would like, go through saying something very, very quickly. And then somebody else would start talking and they just take their time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. And I'm like, what in the world am I thinking? And that this pattern like went on and on and on and on until even still now I still have that
Yeah.
issue and those patterns, but that's something I've recognized that I don't know why that happens and why I am the way I am. But anyway, yeah, so part of my talking issue is because of that, I think.
Yeah. And it's pretty easy to see that those things are conditioned into us, that we end up doing that way because of what we've been taught. People would say things like, kids should be seen and not heard. So when we did talk, it was very valuable to be able to get a say in. And if we felt apologetic about it, especially if adults wanted to talk as well, it's a
Yeah,
complicated situation. Yeah. But here
exactly.
you can talk as fast or as slow as you like, and for as long as little as you like.
Yeah.
And you can talk about nothing, and you can talk about rubbish if you want as well. I'll probably try and bring you back to something of value, but essentially, there's no right or wrong about what you talk about. It all means something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I guess the only thing that's really still kind of coming up for me is that and this is directly from my I have my the chat GPT thing on the side here. So um it's doing a really good job of pointing out, noticing things and seeing that things happen automatically, which I totally see that. I see that things are happening automatically. But I guess I still have the belief that I am the controller of those things. Or there's like this underlying feeling of that, So then I also understand that that's also just coming up. So I don't know. It mentioned that that's good. That's basically like a crack in the system
Yeah,
that I can see both
absolutely. Yeah.
paradoxically. Um, but yeah, it's just
So do you get
that's
this is
kind of
this
where I
is
am.
and this is another valuable one with that one, and that is to distinguish between an assumption that what seems to be a self, what seems to be a controller, is what seems to be the case. And it's an assumption to say that we jump from what seems to be the case to what actually is the case. So they're two quite separate things.
I don't think I've seen it I don't think it's mentioned it like that. Um, can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. So, so the idea that we seem to be in control, that there seems to be somebody there running the show, right? That's that's not just an idea. That's an idea accompanied by sensations. So there is a feeling that there is somebody there running the show. That's what when we say it seems to be a person in there, that's what we're talking about. The fact that there are sensations alongside ideas.
So I want to pause for a second. So I think yes, it did mention this a bunch of times that there's with the seemingly things that there are sensations, and that's where I've been getting stuck a lot too because I'm like, well, I see this. I know that there's a seeming thing that there's a controller. But I don't feel like, and then I kind of try to go back into my body and feel sensations, and I don't know if they're like so subtle that I just cannot pick up on them, but I cannot
Mm-hmm.
feel any sensations to back that up, like I don't know. So, it's really
Mm.
that frustrates me because I don't really feel like when I think of
Right.
the thought or when a thought comes up that, I'm the controller. I don't really feel like anything really separate, like a contraction, happening
Yeah.
somewhere, you know?
Okay. So there are no feelings at all when you think of that.
But I don't know. I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay. Yeah.
like what would be a feeling? Like what besides, I don't know.
Okay. Can you
So,
let's
so
try.
here, let me
Yeah.
say
Go on.
something too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also working through the stuff in Liberation Unleashed with a guide.
Yeah.
Um currently. And she had me do the palm flipping exercise. I don't know if you've seen that one
Yeah.
before,
Yeah. I
but
know that one.
it's where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
watch. Yeah. So I've had to do it twice. And the
Right.
second time, so the first, and then afterwards, I mean, I could clearly see that there's nobody controlling it. It's just so evident and so apparent. And then at the end of it, she's like, well, good. So how do you feel to see this? And my initial response was, oh, there's a sense, it was very thought-based. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but this is still, you're still in thoughts. I'm like, okay. So she had me do it a second time. And then the second time, um, she asked me the same question, how does it feel to see this? There's no controller. And I responded with like, I sat with that question for a few days. And I finally I was like, I have to respond, but I was thinking about this and then feeling into my body and and my response was that like it was very visceral. I felt a contraction in my like a slight contraction in my gut, a little bit of tear, pressure behind the tear ducts,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
where I was about to tear up, a little bit of like a warmth, something in my chest. And then so I sent that over to her and she responded back with, "Oh, okay. So you're saying that, so you're having a lie feeling like that, those feelings, those bodily sensations I was having was like a lie thing. Like I was lying about it." I'm like, I'm stumped. So since then, it's been a few days since that happened.
yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can even trust my body at this point to, like, is
Right.
it my
Yeah,
mind, overlaying on, is it making my body feel a certain way? Like, is my body lying about it? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm starting to feel like things in my body. I don't know. So,
yeah. That I get your confusion on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
oh, I'm a little
presumably your
lost.
guide is Stacy, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
she's very forward, which is I appreciate,
yeah.
very
Yeah. She's
much.
a bit blunt. That's right, and she's very big on the exercises as well. Right. So somehow or other the point of that exercise got missed somewhere along the line. So what you were saying to me earlier, you kind of
Mm.
contradicted with that story that you did actually feel something, and that feeling was, whoa, pretty big. It kind of it brought you to tears. There was a sensation in the body that was um, pretty big as a result of thinking about what you noticed with the palm flipping exercise. That the palm flipping exercise showed you quite clearly that things happen, and that the idea that there is somebody there running the show is what the lie is. Now, whether that's what she meant, or whether or whether she meant something else, I don't know. But that's the way I would see it. I would take your response to that exercise as perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see you have.
She told me to look again.
Okay, right. Well, look, yeah, I
Because
know Stacey pretty well. Feel free to confront her. She's okay. She can cop it. Yeah, and anyway, tell her Vince said. But the point of the exercise was for you to see that there is that why that hand, why in that direction, whatever, that it just happens. And when you saw that, you had a pretty strong reaction to it, didn't you?
I
The
I
second,
thought I did, and
yeah, you did.
I
You
was
did.
trying
There's
to
no,
be
yeah,
truthful about it.
yep, and that was perfect. Now, why she went off into that other way, I don't really know. That I'm imagining some
Well,
kind of
I
miscommunication happened. Yeah.
I feel like I understand where she's coming from because in the one of our initial correspondences, she's talked about um like when people lie, think about the last times you lied, and when people lie, they have very strong reactions in their body, which I totally get it because I've done a fair share of lying in my life. So I know
Hmm.
that I have that tension in my chest, like a pressure in my head, very kind of strong contractions. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
telling the truth, if you're seeing the truth, if you're telling the truth, if you're living the truth, you get
It's
this
different.
more
Yeah. Yeah.
expansive energy, where it's
Yeah.
light and airy and just like you feel good and da da da. So
So let
she was
let me
pointing
ask
out
you
that
this.
my, yeah.
Let me ask you this, just to short circuit this. did the response you get tell you that you were lying? Did you feel like that was a lie response?
I didn't think so. But
No, it doesn't
or
sound like it to
maybe
me.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe I was trying to conjure up like a response to, like a quick response to that because it had been a few
yeah,
days and I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe like subconsciously I am lying about the fact that I am seeing that there's no controller because maybe I'm not seeing that yet. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's go with what we've got already. Yeah, yeah. Stacey's big into Byron Katie stuff too, and I think that's probably where the lie thing comes from. Um, but
Hmm.
sure, yeah. But if I would trust you that you can recognize when you're lying from the bodily sensations, from your response to it. Right. So you don't need to introduce new ways of recognizing that you lie. That's already very clear for you. Right. Now, if you did lie, I mean, people lie, people tell the truth with a lie sometimes. So there's nothing clear cut about that. People can be very truthful about something, even though what they're saying is a lie. So it's way more complex than just a mistruth or an untruth or however you want to put it like that. Yeah. When you when you had that response to the palm flipping exercise, that was a pretty, I would call it a significant experience as a result of seeing that there was no self doing the hand flipping stuff. Would you say that was right? Does that seem accurate to you?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
mean, if
good.
anything, I feel like there might be some sadness to it because,
Sure. Absolutely. Yep.
all our lives we've been taught
Yeah.
and conditioned to know
Yep.
to think that we control everything. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can grieve over the lost controller for sure. Yeah. Now the thing is, the next step that we'll do now, don't worry about you. Yeah. Anyway, what you can tell Stacey about this if you like. Um, but the next step is for you to appreciate the ramifications of what you've seen. Right? The ramifications spread out hugely. It's like what you saw with the palm clicking exercise is like throwing a rock in the middle of a still pond. And then we've got ripples that go out from that in every direction, all the way to the edge. They don't stop. Ripples just keep on happening for quite some time. And they're the ramifications of that. And the ramifications of there being no controller is there's no self. There's no such thing as responsibility. There's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as choice, decisions, intention. All of those things just turn up, just like the palm flipped. None of those things are under the auspices of a controller. So do you get that things what you saw was a portal into something huge.
yeah, I mean, I don't see it. I don't really see it, but I mean, I see it. I understand it.
Yeah. So it's easy just to kind of what we need to do is contemplate this stuff and allow it to spread out, right? We're not looking to contradict it. We're not looking to confirm it. We're just looking using logic that says, well, if there's no controller, how can you succeed or fail in anything? Things just
Yeah.
happen, right? So you can't be a failure. You can't succeed either. Things just happen. And when they happen, they can either turn out to have good effects or negative effects. That's just the way things are. Now, If they happen in a negative way, of course you'll feel disappointed or upset or whatever response comes from them happening in a negative way. And if they happen in a good, positive way, of course you'll feel good. You'll feel pleasant, pleased, whatever. That's just the way things are. That's the way we've been conditioned, and that's fine. That's very useful stuff. But the idea that
Yeah.
you can make a decision and then with intention carry it out and be successful, that's just a story. And when we think about it, haven't we our whole life been the victim of stories like that? I know when I went to school, every report card, every single report card I had all the way through school said, Vincent could do better if he tried harder. It never failed. What a joke. No wonder I left school feeling like a failure. So we get conditioned by these things, and they are the reason why we suffer. Stories, fantasies about how things really are. So what we're looking for with this waking up stuff is to recognize the difference between what is actual and what is a story, concepts, which usually arrive in the form of a thought, but they can arrive in the form of words when somebody else speaks them, or in the form of a movie, or in the form of the news, or in all sorts of forms. But essentially, it gets personal when we start thinking it. When we take what is a story to be actual, that's when suffering starts.
Right.
Now, having said all that, it sounds like we want not have stories, or we want to do it this way or do it that way. But none of that's true, because we can't control what happens. We can't control what our next thought's going to be, can we? It just turns up. But isn't it interesting that we tend to have a pretty consistent pattern to the way we think? Each individual does, because it's evolved over a lifetime, and it's our own experiencing and our own history and DNA and all that stuff all combined together that develops into a particular pattern, a particular flavor or nature of our thinking. So you get those that are glass half full people and those that are glass half empty people, and everywhere in between. Right? So the nature of our thinking is the nature of our thinking. And can we control what turns up or not? No, we can't. It just turns up. You don't know what your next thought's going to be, do you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So what we're really looking at isn't whether thoughts turn up or not, whether stories turn up or not. We're looking at our relationship to those things when we recognize that they have turned up. And that's where we're looking to enable change to take place. And we're not going to make it be different. We can't do that. We can intend it to be different, but that doesn't mean it will be. But intention is just one of those conditions that turns up. Other conditions might be this conversation. The mere fact that we're talking about this introduces possibilities that weren't there if we never talked about it. So the idea is for you to start recognizing the consequences of there being no controller. And you might have grief or sadness turn up as a result of that. We can be consumed by the idea that we've wasted a lifetime under the illusion that we're in control, and that's really sad. Or we can celebrate the fact that we're now freed of that one. But we're not totally freed of it straight away. It's a progressive thing. So we both have to learn to change the nature of our thoughts, our habitual nature of thoughts. That happens over time. And then our nervous system has to catch up because we've trained it as well. We've trained our automatic responses to things, and that will change over time too. So we have we have no option but to be patient with this kind of stuff. But it'll happen, for sure it'll happen. And sometimes we feel like, oh, that's a great shift and it's sudden and it's fairly big and it changes things for us. But frequently the old stuff kind of worms its way back in. That's just the nature of habit. But as we practice it, as we
Mhm.
stay aware of it, it gets better and better. Anyway, I'm talking too much now. You talk a bit.
No, it's all right. Makes sense. All that stuff resonates. I've noticed I sort of notice like every couple of months, for me anyway, like something drops, and I just notice it. And it's like, wait, it's gone. Like that used to like plague me 2 months ago.
Yeah,
Before, well, before all my life up until 2 months ago, it used to plague me. And I'm like, I don't feel that anymore. So I feel like
it's
things
happening.
are progressing. It's happening. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
I have to say I'm very impatient too. So it's like I just want it to be done with. But I'm learning to be patient. This is a,
Yeah.
a very like, I always thought myself as very, very impatient person, but this is definitely a test in my patience.
Yeah.
And anyway,
So do
so
you do you do you get that? I mean, this is well, you got to laugh at these things, really. Do you get that being impatient requires the idea of a controller there be to do it faster, to get there
yeah,
quicker?
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like that is like the ChatGPT mentioned, there are cracks in the system,
yeah,
seeing cracks. So that's, I feel like it's definitely happening, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, but it's just a slow slog for me, it seems like.
Sure. Yeah, and it's something I tend to emphasize a lot because I see it so frequently, and that is that a lot of these so-called shifts happen are really small ones that happen and can easily go by unnoticed, right? Well, not so much unnoticed, but unremembered, because usually when these shifts happen, they happen beneath the level of words. They happen beneath the intellectual level. They're an experience that occurs, and without a story attached to them, we tend not to put them into memories. So we tend to imagine that nothing's changed when in fact we've had a whole lot of little things happen that are different, and we just don't, until we look back at the way we used to be, we don't even realize that they're there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Definitely it. Um, I don't, I feel like I had the first, last year was mainly, no, even this year when I went to a Vipassana retreat, which was amazing. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect.
Is that a
But I
10
went
day
in there.
silent one?
Huh?
Is that a 10-day silent Vipassana?
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Go anchor.
And yes. And I had a massive, I mean, I had a bunch of shifts last year, but I had a really big one during this Goenka Vipassana 10-day Vipassana retreat.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Yeah.
Couple of days of bliss and all that stuff, and then that went away. But since this happened in January and February of this year, But since then, things have been sort of like very much more subtle, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I did a lot of 10-day retreats back in my seeking days, and a couple of 20 days as well. Um, yeah,
It's funny because I was like, when I got there, the first few days, I was like, wow, I could do this I could, people were always saying like, you need to attend, maybe one or two a year. And then the guy, Goenko was saying that this is a lifetime thing, this is a lifetime endeavor, this journey. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. And then at some point it hit me really hard where I'm like, I don't, I don't want to do this I don't think
yeah,
I want to do this forever. I'm not okay with that. I don't want to have this new spiritual identity of a
yep, yeah,
Vipassana
yeah,
attendee or whatever it is, So I was like, this is
yeah.
great. I got a lot out of it, but I'm not going to do this forever.
Sure, yeah, yeah. You got to appreciate that comes from the old Buddhist school as well, and
Right.
yeah. Look, I don't know, I did enough 10-day retreats to be able to do 20-day retreats, and then I did a few 20-day retreats. And on my last one, I was with a bloke I knew who had been at all of the ones that I'd been to, and every other one that was there. He just lived his life for doing these retreats. And I asked him, I said, well, where's all the enlightened ones? Where's all the awake people? And he said to me, oh, perhaps next lifetime. And that just left me cold. That was the end of Vipassana for me. There's no point. I'm here to get enlightened. I can't spend the rest of my life doing this if it's not going to work. So I stopped going to them. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to knock it, because some
Oh
people
no,
really
I'm not
enjoy
knocking
these
it
things
either.
and
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
their life, and that's
yeah,
fine, but that's just
yeah.
not
And it's
my
good.
path.
They're good people, lovely. The food is great. The whole thing is
Yes, the
excellent. Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
the 10 days, the food. I mean, I think I lost like quite a bit of weight too because of it. But
Yeah,
my body, it wasn't just my mind, but my body felt so like
yeah,
just
yeah,
detoxed
yeah,
from everything.
yeah, yeah. To bed at 9 o'clock and up at 4 a.m. That's another one too. I
So I
remember
feel
that.
like if I were to, I do plan to go to another one just to volunteer to do cooking,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
do the things, to pay it forward.
Yeah.
But the only reason I would like if I were to go, I mean, benefits for everything, right? But the food, for sure, the 10 days
Yeah.
detoxing from society and the food, I think that would
Yeah.
be the my number one
Good.
priority
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point.
And that last day, everybody is just so full of love. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I've done enough talking, I feel like. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop out. But no,
All
this is
right.
great. Thank you, Vince.
Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Your turn, Jed. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm all right. Nothing in particular pressing. Um, just thought I'd come along. Got the time today, and just soak up some accurate,
Um,
slightly more accurate stories.
well, more entertaining stories anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I have considered recently is um, when we talk about causation and the kind of infinite causes of things and how difficult it is to identify any, really direct causal relationship. Um, Let me see where I was coming from with this. Well, I'll just kind of ramble on and see what comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I was thinking about scientific method, and I guess where I'm coming from with this is that the system makes decisions based on beliefs, I suppose. That's one of the things that contributes to decision making, I think. Um, and so ideas of if you do X, there's a higher probability that Y will occur than if you don't do X. Say like, say exercise, chances are you'll be healthier if you do some exercise.
Yeah,
Uh,
unless you hurt yourself doing it.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously nothing. It's a probability thing, isn't it? At the best.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm just being funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so would you agree with that? Like, it's fairly reasonable to. I mean, obviously nothing's perfect, and the observer effects on experiments is difficult to negate or to kind of neutralize. But we've got to make decisions happen. Body mind makes decisions. Seems to make sense to refer to science
Hmm.
or alternative sciences. Maybe Chinese medicine is a thing that holds water for one person. Do you agree with these things I'm saying?
I'm interested in why this is an issue for you.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'm noticing that I have beliefs, I have stories, stories happen and decisions are made, directions taken partly as a result of the stories that I believe or that are believed here. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. No,
Why not?
there's too many assumptions in there. I mean, how do you know you've got a belief? How do you know? How do you know that there's a belief involved in a decision?
Um, okay, that's a good question. Um, I mean, again, it's a very complex thing, and
Yeah. And the
you
more we
know,
look at it, the more complex it gets. Yeah.
sure, but I still think that there's a probability thing happening. Maybe I,
Well,
maybe
yeah,
I,
but so
maybe I believe that the sun will rise tomorrow.
sure, but you didn't even think about it until you wanted to come up with an example.
No, but it's in there. It's kind of like the background beliefs that are running that cause this body to think
Are
about
they?
tomorrow.
Are they? Yeah, we assume they are, but are they? Without this, when was the last time you thought about that the sun will come up tomorrow?
Um,
You did it a minute
yeah,
ago. Did you do it
yeah, it doesn't happen
yesterday
a lot.
or the day before?
No, but I think it's
Oh.
just so you don't think that those things are in there
Well,
directing
no, let me be
things.
real, really clear about this. I don't know. I
No,
simply
of
have
course.
no idea.
Okay. I mean,
You know?
that's an ultimate truth. We know nothing, but we
Yeah.
kind of have beliefs, and
Yeah,
so do
we
you?
can tell stories around them and we can
Yeah.
make assumptions about it. Or like we can make an assumption that we got a brain in here, but we don't know we have.
No, we've got. I think it's probably highly probable, isn't it? We
Well,
don't know for certain.
we read very convincing stories about there being a brain in there,
Yeah,
but in fact,
and
in a direct experience,
no, we don't have any direct experience of it.
it just happens, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
So thinking just happens. So it's I come back to this one. You've heard it before. My tinnitus, right? Bugger, as soon as I use that as an example, I can hear it. But
sure.
before I said that, I didn't hear it. It wasn't there. Well, was it there? I have no idea, but I was not aware of it. So, from a perspective of my direct experience, it didn't exist until I thought about it. Now there's a distinct ringing up here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and there's some things that are have those qualities, like you're saying, that they seem to change when we put our attention on them. We don't know whether they don't exist until we think about them. There's a whole kind of world of different kinds of beliefs, aren't there? Like,
Yeah,
um, and some of them seem more malleable than others, I guess, is what I'm saying, and more affected by the
yeah, yeah,
observer effect.
yeah. So it is a case of we have a story about how things work, and confirmation bias will kind of head us in this direction rather than that direction, and so on. And but the bottom line is we don't know. And also the
Cool.
bottom line is it doesn't matter.
So, okay, so where I think it might matter, I guess that's the
Yeah,
key
yeah,
bit here.
go, yeah.
Um, so things like decisions about food or exercise, health seems to be a is a
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a theme for me, So
sure. Yeah.
so if I believe that, obviously I don't know this, but if I believe that, if there's loads of evidence from studies says, um,
They
I don't know,
said
let's pick
salt was
something.
bad for you for years. Now they're
Yeah,
not
well,
saying that,
exactly,
etc.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. We don't know, but we have these stories,
yeah,
and the stories have an impact on whether we eat salt or not. They don't determine whether we do, but they have an impact on it.
yeah, yeah. That's
That's
right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of usefulness in considering what stories we believe, what stories we have.
Mm. Yeah. Well, again, that varies from person to person. My father-in-law, my wife's father, he loved salt. He would dump like a teaspoonful of salt on every meal. Right? He just loved it. He just ate so much, and he died by a mistake in a hospital at 95 years old.
I
Right?
know you're saying loads of stories like that, aren't there? People who
Yeah.
smoked till they were 100,
Yeah, yeah. Who knows? That's right. Who knows?
Who
But
knows? Yeah.
yeah. And what I'm saying with him, I could tell him salt's bad for you, and he just laughed and dumped his salt on his food.
Yeah, yeah. So what
Yeah,
about you then in let's say your steps, you believe that doing a
yeah,
certain amount of steps is good for you, I guess. Is that a story? Would you say that you
yeah,
think has some value? Um, and so having that story maybe means that you have do a few more steps. Who knows how many more? And maybe
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
have any impact, but
Yeah, maybe I'll feel
seems
bad about the fact that I haven't done it for the last week while I've
right.
been sick. Yeah.
Maybe that's the only impact. Yeah, feelings of guilt and satisfaction.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, do we? But it seems that it's a factor in determining what happens to this body mind, the
Yeah,
beliefs.
yeah, yeah. And it's like a good example is, that the sun will turn up tomorrow, or let's be a bit more um, pedantic and let's say daylight will arrive, right? It might be cloud cover and we don't see the sun. Doesn't mean it's not up there, but nevertheless, but daylight will turn up. Right? I'm not going to stand and argue with somebody and say it won't, because history has told me that it very likely will. But I recognise that is a convenient story for me that means I can plan my day. I can plan getting out
Exactly.
of bed and doing whatever that is going to happen. So I'm not going to defy that, but I also recognise that I don't need to get lost in it. I don't need to defend it
Mm,
or refute it either. It just is
mm,
what it is. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, so you're not going to go, well, I don't know whether to charge the car up tonight for the journey tomorrow because I don't know if tomorrow will happen. You're gonna You're going to
Yeah,
charge
that's
it up,
right.
aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm going to go on a trip tomorrow, I'll charge it up tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, even though we don't know if tomorrow will happen, and time is an
Yeah, that's
illusion and all
exactly
that
right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember why this came up for me now, but I think there's it's like I suppose my mind's looking to understand things often and make predictions and you know
Well, that
assess.
that takes me back to that original question. Why are you interested in this particular one?
Yeah.
And and of course, the proper answer to that is I don't know.
Mhm.
It just happens to catch your interest, your
Mm.
attention, and your interest are in that kind of area. Yeah. Now that may be the way it is at the moment. It may not be the way it is tomorrow, or who knows what about was yesterday. But it's irrelevant. But okay, it's just of interest. Now, isn't that interesting that it's of interest?
Mhm.
That's where the interest is for me, not in the outcome of the actual thing, but wow, isn't it interesting that this has got you this one? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think I probably did a bit of that at the time when I realized, oh, this is a question I might take to Vince. Um, I probably did a bit of, oh, I wonder why I'm interested in that. That's interesting, isn't it? And I can't remember now.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah, sometimes that's exactly the way it happens, It's like really what's going on is I want to have a question,
Mm,
but I don't know what's a good question. I don't know. Who gives a shit? I just want to have a question.
uh, yeah, I've been quite into the idea of kind of something I'm calling momentum at the minute. I suppose it's just habit. Um, it seems like there are habits that are, long-term habits and medium-term habits, and there's quite short-term habits, things that we kind of get going with, and then they kind of have a life of their own and a momentum of their own. It seems to me, um, and and even though there might be a point comes where I'm like, oh, okay, that's not useful anymore. I don't have a choice
Hmm.
of whether to continue it or not. If it's going, it's just going,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I can kind of say, okay, I'm not going to feed it anymore. Maybe it seems like now feeding it is not of interest, but it'll just keep going until it plays itself out, I suppose.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the way things work, isn't it? They kind of
Yeah,
they've got their own. Everything's got its own life, so to speak.
yeah, that's right.
And I just want to say, you don't have to have a question to come. You
Mm,
don't have to, I know it kind of might feel a bit flat to say, I've got nothing to talk about. I just want to be here. That's
mhm.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some desire to engage with you. I think that's what it is, and I'm kind of,
Mm.
I kind of see that there's a usefulness in engaging. It seems like rather than just listening, it seems like
Yeah,
maybe I get
I
a
get
bit
that.
more.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to, when I think about it, I can't find any usefulness in talking to you, but I like talking to you,
Mhm.
and that's enough. I like it. It doesn't have to be useful.
No, I suppose not.
You're good to
I
talk
think
to.
I'm
I like hearing the sound of your voice too. You've got a nice voice. Yeah.
so I've got the idea that there's stuff, habits, beliefs that are inaccurate, unhelpful, and that in talking to you, I notice that, and
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that might be the
different people.
case. Yeah. Yeah. Often we don't realize what's going on until we hear the words that come out of our own mouth, kind of
That's
thing, or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
They articulate it. Yeah, exactly.
Mm. Or listen to thoughts that turn up in the silence. That does it too sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Enjoyed the song today. It was a bit of a different vibe, or maybe that'd be today for you. The one that was it's quite a slow one, a bit more of a ballad, I think. Can't quite
Okay,
remember.
I have to. I haven't. I'm so far ahead that I don't even know what one happened today. Yeah,
You just have it
I'm,
all programmed to release
yeah,
later
yeah. I'm
on now.
scheduled up to I think about the 12th of June at the moment,
Okay.
and somewhere along the line, I'll have to go and look. Actually, somewhere along the line, Suno offered me. It said, "Give me a sample of your voice," and it had me
Mm.
sing. And then in order to validate it was me, it had me speak, and then it accepted it, and then I can use that as the voice in the songs. And I've done a bit of that one, and it's like, wow, I can't believe I wouldn't sing in such a low tenor uh, myself normally, but it sounded very low, and it didn't sound like me to me, but I'd be interested. But it sounded okay. I was quite
Yeah,
quite happy with it. Yeah.
that would
And
be
like,
that would be interesting, I think, for people to hear.
yeah, I did a second one where I tried to sing at in a higher pitch because the first one sounded very low, but it's not really that different to the first one in actual fact. But yeah, all
Interesting.
right, maybe I'll send you one of the songs where that is and
Oh,
see
go
what
on
you
then. Yeah,
say. Yeah,
I'd like that.
I'd be interested because it's the sound of the voice, you know. Now, some people I imagine might get really annoyed with it. That it's kind of almost Leonard Cohenish or not quite Frank Zapparish, but it's pretty.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, in a low
Yeah,
register. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
bit
yeah.
deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you one. Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm interested because I read a thing about. I got fucking bad. I got annoyed. I got sucked in by this new scientist, and I was enjoying that, and it kept on only showing me half a thing, and then it wanted me to join, and next
Mm.
thing it bloody took $44 out of my account. So I
Mm.
cancelled the bloody thing, and so I won't have that anymore. But anyway, I read this really good article in it about the effect of music, and
Mm.
the researcher was talking about music has such a big effect because of the absences in it, because of what's not said,
Mm.
because of the um, innuendo in
Okay.
it. Yeah. So
It's
it was an
interesting.
interesting one, and of course I relate that to the songs. Like the songs are a little
Mm.
bit too graphic and
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So it's kind of talking about songs that are a bit more poetic, I'm guessing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I don't want my songs to be so instructional. I want them to be more discoverable kind of
got you.
thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds like that would be a useful direction to explore,
Mm.
I would think. Yeah, I've thought that myself with your songs that um, sometimes the message seems to kind of supersede the kind of well, the poetry of the lyric.
Mm, mm.
And I think that can be the case with when people have got a strong message, and it's often, I don't know, I can think of examples, um, but somehow I agree that I think the brain somehow, for me personally anyway, is more receptive when it's less kind of didactic. Do you know what I mean? When it's
Yes,
less
yeah,
prescriptive and it's more open. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that makes me think I need to instruct it to be more um, poetic in the way it comes up with
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, stranger,
Hey Vince,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Good to see you.
yeah. Been a long, long time, eh?
Yeah, it's been a while now. Yeah,
So you're pretty busy still.
yeah, I guess I am. Don't feel busy, but things are happening.
Mm. I um I talked to Elad Friday nights, my Friday nights at 10 p.m. And when I went to log in last Friday night, you were already on. So we did it on FaceTime or something else anyway. Yeah, that was okay. But
Oh, you
you
mean,
you in Oslo now?
yeah.
Yeah. So would have been your 2 p.m. Friday meeting. So that was just the time that conflicted with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll just consider get my own account. Probably time now.
Oh, well, if it suits, yeah, it's no problem. It's just a case of coordinating, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just been it's just been there. But since we're kind of running into each other, maybe it's a good time.
Well, one would hope that a lot of these one-to-ones you're having a paid one, so might
Yeah,
mean you can afford to do it. Mm.
definitely.
Mm. Then you've made a move on the the dog or the house building at Sunjai.
Well, we have to wait um, for the land to settle there. So last time I was in Thailand, we we raised the land, um, and that has to settle for 2 rainy seasons,
Oh, okay.
and then we
Yep.
can build on it.
Mm. So there would be one rainy season gone past already?
Uh, Currently, it's ongoing right now.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it's the first test. See how that goes, if it's stable or not.
Mm. Yeah, it's really weird. That one, where I used to live, it was the same thing. You know, if they raised the land to build on, they had to leave it for 2 years for it to settle before they could build on it. Here, where I live now, I see them build a block up and build on it immediately.
Yeah,
Different places have different rules. Yeah.
Well, I think it has to do with, there is a lot of flooding in Thailand, or at least in those areas that recommend waiting for 2 years. So
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
I'll say goodbye, guys. Good to see you,
See you, Jim.
Manus.
So how
And
are you with these meetings?
how do you mean?
No, I mean, how are the meetings going?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm enjoying them.
Yeah, good.
I guess I must be if I'm still here.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, you're muted.
Hey guys, I'm finally showing my face. What's going on? You guys doing all right?
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty early where you are, eh? Or pretty late.
It's not that early. I just yeah, I I just I've been getting over an illness, so sleeping a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, me too. Lots of sleeping. Mm.
Yeah. Just I don't know, feeling really feeling kind of frustrated also, which is nothing new. It's funny. I feel like you know, I just feel like the three of us is a familiar scene. This could have been from like 3 years ago, as far as, you know, I'm still frustrated. You guys are still, I don't know, just familiar faces to me, hearing me say probably the same stuff I've been saying. And so that's sort of
What are you
the
frustrated
emotion.
about?
Um, yeah, I guess what I perceive to be a lack of progress is this feeling of suffering, you know? And just this expectation that I should be suffering less, or that life should be going differently than how it's going. And then that, the resistance to that, where it's like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about that. I should just be letting everything go. It's all a flow of experience happening to no one. But Yeah, it's kind of a conceptual understanding of a thing that still doesn't feel true.
What feels true is that it's a big pain in the ass, eh?
Huge pain in the ass. Yeah. And my conventional day-to-day life is like kind of feels like it's being uprooted. Um, I'm about to take some time off work in a way that it is somewhat disruptive. My divorce is still, I mean, it's still something that's like pretty painful for me to think about. And there's still a lot of, it's not as acute, it's not as sharp, but it's still something that I think about in terms of resistance to that situation. So it's just the same stuff, but it's like it still feels it still feels like everything's in pieces.
Mm. Still feel like you're stuck in a loop.
Yeah, pretty much. Still stuck in a loop, and it's not a lot of, there's no escape. Like there's no hope. And I guess, this kind of represents, spiritual whatever feels like sort of the only hope. But it's frustrating, and it also feels like, it might just be a lot of bullshit.
Mm.
So
Right. You know, what often see in conversations with people who is seeking is that when there is this perspective of attaining something, like you're now putting hope into this solving your life problems, you're chasing an answer. Um, the lens from which you're kind of looking at your life is already coming from a sense of lack. So you're trying to grasp at something, trying to chase an answer. And the way I see it is that until this perspective shifts, you're just going to keep on staying in the loop. And the perspective can shift to, instead of I'm trying to find the answer to my problems, to emptying what is false, what the beliefs that you're believing. So instead of kind of trying to reach for an answer, start looking at, in this moment, what am I believing to be true that makes this suffering?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So, as an
yeah,
example, I believe I'm stuck.
right. Yeah, no, it's I've taken a look at those things, and I mean, the recognition, I guess, is that they're thoughts, basically. They're thoughts that have no relation to um, what's going on, to reality, I guess. And sometimes I can see that and feel neutral, but I guess it's just the frustration is that none of it is abiding, you know? Like if I really look at it closely, and it's like, oh, this feeling or this thought I have that I'm no good and I'm never going to be happy. Um, I see it as a thought, like that's a thought that comes up, and that's all it is. Reality, life is unfolding in this moment. But then, I don't know. I just keep getting pulled back into it. So it's still, I guess it's still a loop. And
Well, that thought starts before that thought, so to speak. It starts with a sensation that you don't want and that you give meaning to. So there is a discontentment like feeling in the body. And then there is a meaning given to that discontentment in a story from that meaning. So it could be feeling a certain way, and then I'm depressed. And then the story begins. I'm never going to be happy. And then the brain starts to confirm everything it thinks is making it depressed. So it brings back the story of the divorce, or it brings back some other things happening in your life that could be interpreted as a source of the reason for this depression. And then you're gone. So instead of whatever is going on in the body just is being let, is being accepted for what it is. It's just something happening in the body without claiming that as something about a someone, something about Ray and the meaning and the story of Ray, to try to fix or mend what's going on in the body.
mm,
You can always, you can always, you can always find relief somewhere, but then, you know, you haven't really uprooted the main issue. So you end up back with the same movement, the same loop again and again. And it starts with claiming whatever sensation is going on to the body and in the body, and making that about giving meaning to it.
yeah. So with the main issue, the root being sort of identification, like creating a center of experience, the experiencer of experience. Is that kind of what you mean, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of my, it's where I'm drawn to look at this point. But that's also part of the frustration that there are times where I feel like I can slow things down, and I can see that. Um, the experience is just happening. Experience is just happening. And that this idea that it's happening to somebody is just a thought, or it's a thought that's coming in to claim the experience. And even that thought is just a part of the experience as well. Like it's just all a flow of experience occurring.
Yeah. So if you look at however you're interpreting anything, you're already interpreting what's happening through this lens of me,
Mm.
because that lens has been there for so long. It's not questioned. And, sometimes you remember to question it, and sometimes you don't. But as soon as we're in this interpretation of what is happening, it's already been personalized.
Sorry, say
Even
that again.
before, I say, even if you're in a story, the story is already about me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So to start to create awareness around that, so to speak, to start to question the current context of which you're giving any moment. Even before a conscious story is formed, there is this subtle thought of me or here or inside.
Yeah.
Even that's a thought that you can look at. And what often happens for people when they're doing inquiry like this is that they see that there is no one here. And so they conclude there is no one here. And because it's concluded, it's kind of stored into this inside bank, and then they don't look again, because the mind now, as a thought, already knows, oh, there's nobody here, and then continues thinking about what's happening, continuing in the interpretation instead of looking again and again and again. So people think they're looking, but really they're thinking. And that's two very different things.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what comes up is, without an identity, what can be known? You can't know something, right? You can't feel like you know something, and like, who knows it, I guess. But mm, yeah. Um, I don't know.
You're in trouble as soon as you listen to any thoughts.
Yeah.
So even when you were saying you have those periods where you can see what's happening, can you get the difference between the experience of that and then the description of that? And
Yeah,
is the description of it happening while it's happening? Or is that only arrive when you're telling us about it?
the description. I mean, this description of it is only happening when I'm telling you about it.
Right,
Like the
great,
experience
great.
of it can only be happening in this moment.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If you what Marius was saying, if you're having the experience, there is no description of it going on. If you're describing it to yourself as it's happening, then you're still thinking. That's not to
Hmm.
say that there's not an experience going on, but it's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So when you're having those experiences, does it finish by some thought turning up that says this is not going to last?
No, I would say I usually just get distracted by something else. You know, I just get pulled into the flow of experience and lose track of what's happening, maybe.
Wait a minute. So before that happens, you're keeping track of what's happening.
I'm trying to remember now. I mean, I think the way that it goes is I'll have some thought, you know, and the thought will say something like, I can't live like this, you know? And then there will be a very deliberate looking at that and saying, hey, that's a thought. Okay. Like that's a thought. And I think there's somebody seeing that thought.
What
You
about
know,
the
there's a
feeling?
sense.
What about the feeling that's going on at that time when you're seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a feeling of something apart from the thought looking at the thought.
Yeah.
And then the thought says, that's me. That's me seeing the thought. And then I say, okay, that's a thought that says that's me. And so what's here? And then attention goes back to experience with no me, just experience that's happening, sensation, um, experience with no me, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
unfolding.
Great. Sounds good.
Yeah. But that, I mean, that's when it kind of like everything sort of, then it's just the flow of experience until, you know, a thought comes back in. And then it's a similar thing where you know, um, where I investigate it. I either investigate it again or I don't know, it's just
Mm.
a little bit. I feel like I lose track of what's happening.
Sure.
I mean,
Does it feel like the investigation causes that experience?
does the investigation cause that experience? Um, yeah, I mean, a little bit. It's kind of like untying a knot. Like if all my attention is tied up in, I don't know, I don't want to interpret it too much. I think
Mm.
that the experience changes because after the investigation,
Mm.
or it seems to.
And I heard you made a reference to it's not abiding.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is something that I asked your chatbot about. And it's like the person, like the identity that wants it to be abiding is the thought also. Any expectation or desire for it to be different than what it is a thought. It's another identity. And so that makes sense conceptually. But I don't know. It's just hard for me to, I mean, like what's speaking to you now is an identity, right? Like what's speaking to you now is whatever collection of thoughts is has these things that he wants to be different. And yeah, what I guess what I want is just to not suffer in the way that I have been suffering. And so uh, yeah, I don't know. But it's just that the fact that there is an identity here wanting to not suffer is that's the one who's suffering, you know. I can't figure it out.
Right. Now, what if we framed that one, put it up on the wall? I can't figure it out. Of course you can't figure it out. You'll never figure it out. What about giving up on trying to figure it out? How do you do that? You're going to figure that one out?
No.
Yeah.
Right. I think, you know, it could be helpful to look at what is making certain thoughts believable. So you have a moment of clarity, and then you say you're back into thoughts. So what about those thoughts make those thoughts believable?
Mm. Mm. I guess, you know, the answer that comes to mind is sort of attachments or fears that I have. You know,
Yes.
like I want to be, like I'm afraid of um, being seen as irresponsible, or I'm afraid of not having enough money, or I, you know, want to be liked.
Good. So do you see how in each of those examples there is a someone wanting to be liked? There's a someone not trusting life and needing money or whatever. And there is a someone with the third example you mentioned that I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, in this space we're in, where we kind of have this idea of no self and it's just a matter of seeing that there is no self here. Isn't really the work. This is a start, but the work is also to recognize each time a self is believed. So every time you feel yourself stepping into a self is a good time to look. And that can be felt. If you start to notice how it feels to be a self, that can kind of create this alarm system where attention starts to move to noticing, now I'm a self, now I'm selfing. And then do what I said previously, where you're asking yourself, well, what am I believing right now? What am I trying to avoid right now? Is that real? Is that true? And, this is where the work starts to be deeply uncomfortable at times, because that would mean that you step out of this self that wants to be liked and you are a no one, meaning you're not trying to um, tiptoe around everyone or overplease everyone or any of that type of behavior that is tied to this self that always wants to be liked. And that feels deeply uncomfortable for that self. But if you want to snap out of that habitual behavior tied to that version of the self, then that's what it takes. So you recognize, I'm selfing right now, and you stop feeding that movement instead of keep going in the same loop again and again.
Um, how do I guess it sounds like a silly question, but then like, how do I know, or how should, like, is there a way to be a true, like, how do I act if I don't have a self, Is it just like spontaneous,
Yes,
just
it's a
spontaneous,
response.
whatever?
You're responding to what's happening now. You don't you
Mm-hmm.
don't have this idea of how to be.
I see.
And this is also touching on something that can be deeply uncomfortable, at least for a while, is not to have anything to orient towards, not to know how to be, not to know where to move, how to relate to life, because that keeps projecting things forward into some kind of continuous illusion. You're creating time, creating continuity because you keep living somewhere else than here. And the self is doing this because it doesn't like not to know. It doesn't like uncertainty. It wants to be safe. It wants to in your case, maybe not step on any toes or not um, take too much space or make sure everybody's okay, or any other version of the self that's there.
Yeah.
It's a
Just
tricky
wants to
one.
do. Yeah.
Because people often think, well, if I start with, I'm really concerned that people see me as a good bloke or whatever, that to let go of that doesn't mean to go in the opposite direction and say, well, I don't care and behave in an obnoxious way as a way of getting around that. That's the same thing. That's still an identity. But there is a bit of a clue in that you can move towards your discomfort when it turns up about that kind of thing, but into a no anything kind of place, which will be uncomfortable because it goes against everything that you believe about yourself, how you want to be seen, how you want to be perceived or whatever. So it is a movement away from an identity into a movement of no identity, which is a black hole. You don't know, which is definitely going to be uncomfortable. So you can kind of use that discomfort as an orienting kind of thing to move. A good one that I came up with, well, I got off Panilla, was a really good one about explaining and complaining and whatever, shaming, that kind of stuff. If you simply avoid explaining yourself to other people, that can be a really amazing thing in terms of what it reveals for you. Because when we explain ourselves, explain what we really intend, it's really because we've got this identity that we want to be liked. And by simply not doing that, it confronts us with this movement into nothing. It's a good experiment. And you'll be amazed at how many times you do explain yourself in a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. This all sounds like it's going to be incredibly difficult.
But it also, Ray, this is that shift that I was talking about. Instead of hoping for this this ultimate answer in the distance that will solve everything. When you see that is just keeping you chasing something, and you start to confront what's happening in your situation, where you're stepping into being a someone, and you start slaying one dragon at a time, then you're finally starting to do some real work instead of chasing this pipe dream that's never going to give you anything.
Mm.
And the reason I think Vince laughed is because the self is already projecting this army of dragons that you have to defeat, but the only dragon that matters is the current dragon right in front of you.
Yeah. Oh boy.
It's a great metaphor. The crazy part about it is that the only dragon slayer is a no self.
Mm. Well, um, I don't know. Yeah.
Good. Frame that one, put it up on the wall.
Uh, yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ray.
I've only got 5% of battery left, so I might drop out soon. How's things for you, Kate?
Good. It's good. It's good. Things are good. Miss you. You sound better. That's good. You look better.
Yeah, I'm
Glad you're
coming good. Yeah.
good. Good. Yeah, I was thinking about what Ray was saying, and I was thinking about, Pernilla helped me so much with this because after a million years of therapy and all that shit, I came to this belief that I was bad. That was it. There was no why, there was no explanation. It was just I was bad. And I inherited that belief about myself when I was, 2, 3. And then I spent a summer with a 3-year-old. And I realized that a 3-year-old didn't have the brain capacity to say why. That hadn't been developed, the answer why. It was just if you told this 3-year-old, his name was Vinny, by the way, if you told Vincent that blue was blue, he just accepted it. And so I realized that's what happened to me. And a whole just incredible shift happened because this was a belief I had inherited and there was no answer. There was no way to solve it. And here I had spent 50 something years trying to solve my badness when A wasn't mine and B, it couldn't possibly be true. But the only thing that was missing from that was why. If you give me a reason why I'm bad, I can fix it. But obviously a 3-year-old doesn't have that capacity to do anything. And just that awareness that happened on the outside that was a total gift changed how I feel about myself and how I relate to whatever this life stuff is that's happening. And I didn't do that. I didn't create that situation. That just happened. That was a gift. And I was able to recognize that. So, sometimes I identify, sometimes I don't. Some days I don't think about who I am. Some days I think about who I am, but I now trust life, and that's the most amazing thing. So, Marius, it's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. It's really nice
Nice
to
to
meet
meet you.
you. Yeah. So that's all. Those are the only words I have to say is, yeah, I know I'm not doing this thing. So I try and stay awake as much as I can, and I don't get too involved in it. It's like, well, it's just another day. See what happens tomorrow. Try and try and be kind to myself. That was the other thing Pernilla said to me was because I had such a challenging story and belief about what had happened to me in my childhood. I never knew how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to mother myself. I didn't know how to be nice to myself because I believed all that shit. I believed that I was bad. Believed that if nobody would love me or like me if they knew who I was fundamentally. And so I had to learn how to be kind to myself. I had to go all the way back and, learn to be kind to all those little parts of me. And that's still happening sometimes. But that belief in not good or that's not mine. That's somebody else's that I inherited. So somebody downloaded that into a little tiny brain. And that's not my belief, but I certainly believed it for a long time. Just like I believed that the color blue looks like the color blue to me. So I don't know if that helps any, Ray, but that was certainly my experience, was that had to look at those beliefs and do I really believe that? Is that my belief about myself or did I inherit that? And I think we inherit a lot of shit from people. I mean, you need a license to catch a fish, but you don't need a license to have babies. You can be crazy and still have babies and fill their heads full of bullshit. And then they come out, not liking themselves or thinking that they're, servants of God or that they've got to do something. And here we are, I thought I was the worst person in the world and I had to take care of everybody to make up for it. Turns out now that I'm not taking care of anybody, I really like myself. So, yeah. And things change, and I'm just really aware that I just have to stay open and stay observant. And now I'm at the place where I'm starting to find the gap. Like somebody will say something or something will happen, and I'll have a sensation, and then immediately there's a thought, and then there's a feeling. But I'm starting to notice a little bit of a gap, so I can start to laugh at the thought and the feeling that then comes up and says, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's tightness in my chest. There's like a knot in my belly, and my shoulders are slumped. Thought is telling me, oh yeah, I'm bad. I fucked up again. It's all my fault, blah, 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 blah. But there's that little gap where I can laugh a little bit about that and say, oh, thanks so much for sharing, Brunhilde, or whatever her name is at the moment. And then untwist that, because that's just, it's just somebody saying something about themselves. They're not saying it about me. But I now have access occasionally to that gap. So I keep looking for when that gap is coming. And that makes a big difference. I could have spent a whole week suffering, and instead I had like 20 minutes of feeling shitty, but I kept like saying, wait a minute. Like, what's the sensation? What's the sensation in my body versus what is the thought I'm thinking and what is the assumption of the emotion telling me? Because the situation was fine. I was the one who was loading it with all that crap. It wasn't, so that's been really helpful, but that's just started happening. So, I trust I'm on my way, but I'm not in charge, whatever, it's a gorgeous
Good
day.
stuff.
I'm gonna do what I do, and that's it, see what happens next. Yeah. But a lot of my heaviness has lifted, and that's been such a blessing, because I used to drag a lot of weight around with me, a lot of weight that wasn't mine to begin with.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bedtime for you, Vince?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's 12:20 p.m. and I've got 1% of battery left. So
All right.
yeah. All right.
I'm off to my garden.
See you
Goodbye,
later.
everybody. Nice to meet you both. Nice to meet you both. See you again soon, I
You
hope.
too.
Okay.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.